Welcome back to the Secret Class Dojo. Today is going to be our fun Friday. I'm not going to be giving you a new problem, but I'll be going over the 4 challenge problems that are given to you previously in the week. Let's get started with Monday's problem. Caesar loves to grow corn. He planted 17 rows of corn. Each row had 64 stalks of corn. How many stalks of corn did Caesar plant? Okay. I thought about who my problem was about. Okay. So now as I read this, I'm thinking who my problem is about and what my problem is about. Caesar loves to grow corn. Okay. So now I know my problem is about Caesar. He planted 17 rows of corn. Each row had 64 stalks of corn. How many stalks of corn did Caesar plant? Okay, so who my problem is about is Caesar, and what my problem is about is the stalks of corn. So now I'm going to rewrite my sentence and say Caesar planted blank stalks of corn. I'm going to try to figure out how many stalks of corn he actually planted. Okay, after I visualized and I rewrote my statement, now I need to jot down some important information. I'm just going to write a C to save me some time. So I know some important information is that C planted 17 rows. And each one of those rows had 64 stalks. After I've jotted down that important information, I want to, when in doubt, draw it out. So right here I can tell that I have one row. And that first row has 64 stalks of corn. And the second row has another 64 stalks of corn. All the way through and through this, I have 17 rows with 64 in each. Okay, and this question, I know I'm going to have to multiply. I know I'm going to have to multiply 17 rows times that 64 in each. And if I multiplied 60 times 10, I got 600. 60 times 7, I would get 420. 10 times 4, which equals 40. And then 4 times 7 to equal 28. Now, if I add up all of those partial products and I put them together, I would get 1,088. Okay, now let's go back to my sentence and see if it makes sense. My sentence was Caesar planted blank stalks of corn. Caesar planted 1,088 stalks of corn. And I think to myself, does that answer make sense? Yes, it does. So my answer choice is C. Let's go on to Tuesday's problem. Tuesday's problem reads, Crystal was trying to determine which of the following shapes has the most lines of symmetry. Can you help Crystal by selecting the shape with the most lines of symmetry? Now I want to go over and I want to think about, well, what is symmetry? Symmetry is a figure that can be folded, divided into 2 matching congruent parts. And I can have 1 or more lines of symmetry. The different types of lines of symmetry are diagonal. I go from side to side. I have a horizontal line of symmetry. Or I have a vertical line of symmetry, straight up and down. The number of congruent sides equals the number of lines of symmetry in a figure. Okay, so these shapes are going to come back later. For example, my symmetry example is my hexagon, okay? Right here I have 1 line of symmetry. If I folded this shape directly in half, it is going to be the same on the left side and the right side. And I always want to put a little 1 at the top of my line and a 1 at the bottom. That way we don't count my line twice. Okay? I have now 2 lines of symmetry. If I folded it, it's going to be exactly the same. I have 3 lines of symmetry, 4, 5, and 6. So my hexagon has 6 congruent equal sides and also has 6 lines of symmetry. Okay, in this problem, my answer is going to be that the amount of sides, the congruent sides, equals the amount of lines that are symmetrical. Wednesday's problem. The fourth grade teachers are ordering pizzas for their students and want to order it all together. Mr. Santana estimates that his class will eat 4 3/8 pizzas. Miss Drake thinks her class will eat 4 5/8 pizzas. Miss Wallen determines her class will eat 3 6/8 pizzas, and Miss Bradford thinks 3 7/8 pizzas will be enough for her class. How many whole pizzas should the teacher order so all the classes have enough? Okay, so first I visualize my problem. I'm visualizing all the 4 teachers ordering pizzas for their school. Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite my sentence. When I rewrote my sentence, the 4th grade teachers need to order blank, and this is the key word, full pizzas. I can't order a half of a pizza. That wouldn't make sense. Domino's isn't going to deliver that. So I need to figure out how many full pizzas I'm going to need. So Santana said that he was going to need 4 3/8, Miss Drake 4 5/8, Miss Bradford 3 7/8, and Miss Wallen 3 6/8. Okay, so my plan is to add up all the pizzas and round it to a whole to determine the full pizzas that needed to be ordered. Okay, so I will start it off with Santana and Drake. My first step, I figured it was an addition problem, so I created my T-chart and separated it into wholes versus fractions. That's going to keep my part organized. I took care of my first mixed number. I put my 4 and paired it with my 3/8, did my 4 and paired it with my 5/8. First, I added my fractions in case I needed to carry over a whole. So I got 8/8 when I added 3/8 plus 5/8. And then now I can just add my whole numbers where I have 8. Now I have 8 and 8/8. But if I know I have 8 equal parts and all of those 8s are shaded in, that's just going to equal one whole. So Santana and Drake are going to need 9 full pizzas to feed their class. Okay. Now we're going to go over to Miss Bradford and Miss Wallen. Miss Bradford needs 3 7/8. And we're going to add it to Miss Wallen's class, which was going to be 3 6/8. If you notice, I did the same thing. I used my T-chart to separate my whole numbers from my fractions. Okay, if I added my fractions first, I got an improper fraction of 13/8. And my whole numbers, I got 6/8. In this case, I converted this 13/8 into a mixed number, and I got 7 5/8 pizzas. Wait a second. It's a 3-step problem. Whatever you do, don't panic because you are so smart that I know you'll be able to get this next part. Well, now I need to take Miss Drake and Mr. Santana's pizzas and add it with Miss Bradford and Miss Wallen's pizzas, and I got 16 5/8. Now, in the comments, I saw this answer, which means you solved it correctly. However, I always have to think to myself, does your answer make sense? Is 16 5/8 a full pizza? Oh, no, I know I'm going to need to round it up. So the 4th grade teachers need to order 17 full pizzas. I need 17 full pizzas because 5/8 is only a part of a pizza. So if that one tricked you, you always have to remember, plug it back in to see if I'm answering what the question is asking. Thursday's problem. Nayeli was bored and made the following design in her notebook. What fraction of the total design did Nayeli color? And we know Nayeli will probably never do this in class. because she's such a hard worker. Okay, this was the cool little design that I noticed on her notebook. Well, first, I can tell that this is a hundreds grids based on its area. I can see that there are 10 rows, and in each one of those rows, there's going to be 10 columns. So I can kind of do these in groups of 10. If I counted the total of the colored squares, I counted 40 out of 100. Or I could also say 40 hundredths. Now the problem, when I go back to my answer choices, A says 50 hundredths, B says 5 tenths, C says 45 hundredths, and D says 4 tenths. Now, I for sure counted 40 colored. So I can already cross out A and B because those answers don't make sense. You should be confident in your answers. You counted 40. So now I'm stuck between C and D. Okay? Well, I know that 41 hundredths can be simplified to 4 tenths because 4 groups of 10 equals 40. Okay, so my final answer is going to be D. Thank you for tuning in. That was the end of our Secret Dojo review. I hope you guys enjoyed. And now that Miss A and Miss Wallen are getting better at recording, stay tuned for next week for our videos.